that many people joined the Labour Party that he found out that the debt that we owed to the co-op, £25 million, had been hanging round the Labour Party's neck for about 30 years. Harold Wilson had a double first at Oxford and he didn't find the money to pay it off. Tony Blair came in 97 and he couldn't pay it off. Gordon Brown was the Chancellor of the Exchequer and he failed to pay it off. Along strung Jeremy and he'd raised the membership from 200,000 to nearly 600,000. He said, what, 25 million, pay it off. And it's gone. So when you're talking about austerity Britain, if anybody can sort it out, it's this man. I thought he was Mr. Foreign Affairs, but his canvas spreads more widely than that. So I want to introduce a mate of mine, Jeremy Corbyn. I was one of the first people that nominated him for the leadership, and we've been pals together all those years. It's a wonderful attribution to the Labour Party. There's been none better in my lifetime, and we're going to get rid of austerity Britain, not with tedious Theresa, but Jeremy Corbyn.
Presentation, please, first.
Did?
Not for you.
Oh.
Jeff and Norma.
Jeff and Norma. Jeff and Norma, come on. Come to the front.
Can you thank Jeff and Norma for 50 years of work for the Labour Party? They've been doing it even longer than Dennis has been the MP. Thank you so much for all you've done over all these years. And I've been reading up about you. I need to go on the walk with you because you've apparently got the right walking areas to go, the routes to go down. And the gardening, I know a little bit about gardening, but I think you know much more than I do. And so we can do all that together. But I just want to say on behalf of the Labour Party and Dennis and everybody here, thank you for everything you've done over 50 years. You're the people that kept the voice of socialism alive. You're the people that have stood up for the community, however difficult it is, whatever abuse we get from the right-wing newspapers and all the rest of it. You're there standing up for the people and standing up for the party. Thank you very, very much on behalf of the entire Labour Party for everything you've done. Can we hear it for Jeremy Corbyn?
Thank you enough. I'm here, I'm at home. I'm with the people that I love and I support. We've always been there for Dennis, from him being a young man. We were there for him, and we've always been for the Labour Party. We've got it in our DNA, it runs through our blood. And Jeremy, finally, you're somebody who I wanted to be the leader of our party. You are saying exactly how we feel. Over the years we've supported leaders, not that we've always agreed with them, but with you it's entirely different. We support you. Yeah, we do. And I hope that we have the help to continue to be here for you.
We've all got that.
Yeah.
he's just reminded me, it was just about 50 years when Barbara Labour Party nominated me for the job. And it is true that the two people that I remember so well are these two here today. And they're still around. We're all still around.
Thank you very much. What the contribution they've made to the party and to our lives is so incredible. Thank you for everything you've done and everything you will do for the election that's coming. Yeah. And can I just say, first of all, thank you to Dennis for what he's just said today, but also thank you to Dennis for 48 years in Parliament, lots more to come. Dennis has made such an amazing contribution to the Labour Party, to your community, to many communities all over the country. And Dennis has this amazing ability to connect with an audience anywhere he speaks at. When I was first elected to Parliament in 1983, mine was a constituency where it was a merger of a number of two constituencies into one, and both the former Labour MPs had gone off to join the SDP. Which everyone was very, very sad and sorry about for about 5 minutes. And we then had a difficult election campaign, and we won it. And then successive elections, Dennis came to campaign with us and support us, but not just at election times, but other issues on housing finance and, of course, during the miners' strike. Now, in many ways, you might say, the community here is very different to the community that I represent. Yeah, at one level it is. But at another level, it's exactly the same. If you're up against it, if you've got the DWP on your back over universal credit, if you're on a housing waiting list and you can't get anywhere to live, if you're living in a too expensive private rented accommodation with no security around it, and if your children can't get the jobs they want, can't get the apprenticeships they deserve, don't get the places in college they need, it's no different wherever you are in the country. That is why we, the Labour Party, represent the whole of the country, of the people that are standing up against this government and the austerity they've imposed on us over the past 8 years. And Dennis and his campaigning in support of lots of communities all over the country is just an example of why our party has grown so much and is so strong. So Dennis, we all owe you a huge debt of thanks for not just being the MP for this area for all those years, but the way you've constantly reminded the Parliamentary Labour Party of the danger of erring off the path of true righteousness. Dennis has seen the dangers of walking on the wrong side. And whilst Dennis very kindly said all that I've often discussed with him and others about international affairs and foreign policy, and I just say, without going on about it too much, my determination is to lead a government that wants to see a peaceful world, that sees human rights as the basis of our foreign policy. And Dennis and I and many others, we opposed the Iraq war because we thought it was wrong, we thought it would lead to a disaster, and we thought it would beget more terrorism and more danger and more refugees and more misery in the future. Where were we wrong? We opposed it because it was the wrong thing to do. And I want to lead a government that becomes a voice for justice, a voice for peace, and a voice for reason around the world, and challenges those that abuse human rights, such as the government of Saudi Arabia, and we would do just that. I don't know when the election is coming, but what I did say after the 2017 election, we should take stock of something. We started that election campaign with every piece of the media telling us we were finished, telling us the Labour Party was done for, telling us there was no hope whatsoever. Yet, something very different happened. And when that election campaign was launched, we thought, well, let's just go out there straight away and get on with it. And I was due to speak the day it was launched at a carers conference in Birmingham. And various people in my office said, oh, you'll have to cancel that, you've got to have lots of meetings down here. I said, no, nothing gets cancelled, I'm on the train straight away, I'm going to Birmingham, as I said I would. And I went there and had a meeting. I spent 2 hours listening to carers and their lives and what they were going through. That was, to me, absolutely the right thing to do. And the next day we thought, well, let's start as we mean to go on. What's the nearest marginal to my office in Westminster? We said, Croydon. Right, okay. So we did what we did in lots of other places. We sent out a few emails at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to say we'd be down there at 4 o'clock for a street rally. We were there at 4 o'clock. 500 people came to a street rally at 3 hours' notice because we hadn't even chosen a candidate in Croydon at that time because they wanted to win. And that weekend, I was in Manchester, and then we travelled south. We went to Warrington South, and somebody said to me, can you just call in on Warrington South? They're doing a voter registration drive, and they're starting at 1 o'clock, so if we get there just before 1, we can see them off on the way and wish them well. And I said, how many people do you think we're there? Oh, about a dozen people, perhaps. So we're driving along this road looking for the address, and we made sure we got the right road. There was this mass of people outside one house. I said, oh my goodness, we can't interrupt somebody's wedding party. Because it looked for all the world a wedding party. There was bunting outside, there was balloons and all the rest of it. And I realised they were all red balloons, bit of a giveaway. And it was hundreds of people just getting ready to go out canvassing. Again, we hadn't even selected a candidate at that point. And we won Warrington South. Nobody expected us to do it. We gained Warrington South. We then went down to Crewe. Same thing happened. We were expecting 30 people. More than 500 turned up in the town square, and against all expectations, Laura Smith was elected MP for Crewe and Nantwich. And it was that grassroots work that lots of people did all over the country, defying all the expectations and all the advice they've been given by late-night TV experts that Labour couldn't win. And then we had the manifesto written by Andrew Fisher and others from our team, which was transformational, because we said austerity has to stop. We cannot go on being a society so divided between the rich and the poor. We can afford lots of things, but we can't afford the wealth of the very wealthy. We have to redistribute wealth and power in our society. And so we put forward that manifesto, which is to end austerity, is to invest in the needs of the future, is to bring railways, water and mail back into public ownership where they should never have left it in the first place. And it is about investing in young people for the future. That means ending the false choice between college or university or apprenticeship at university, but saying it's open for all. A national education service that provides nursery education for every 2 to 4 year old, irrespective of how much their parents earn or what their postcode is, so that every child gets that decent start in life. Properly funding our primary schools, giving a pupil arts premium to every school so that every child can learn a musical instrument. And when it comes to university, if you want to go to university and you can get in and you can benefit from it, go there with our blessing, because we will raise corporation tax on the biggest corporations to pay for the university fees for everybody. And yesterday, Anta Rayner and myself and others spoke at a demonstration outside Parliament on colleges and college education. So what it's about is that opportunity and that hope for the future. And on Monday week, the Tories are going to present a budget. I doubt they've written it yet, because there seems to be a lack of communication at the top of the Tory party, that Theresa May decides to speak at how come there's an underfunding of our National Health Service? How come people are waiting 6 months or a year for counselling in a mental health service that barely exists in some parts of the country? How come there's so many people still waiting for housing? How come there's so many police officers' jobs being lost? How come that when you're saying austerity has ended, you're taking another 1.7 billion off local government expenditure next year? Yesterday, Anne and I helped to launch this Labour local government campaign against austerity in local government, pointing out what it's about. What she said was complete nonsense. Austerity hasn't ended. What they've done is given yet more tax giveaways to the biggest businesses, haven't chased down the tax havens and the tax avoiders and the tax evaders, given more tax relief to the very richest, and at the same time continued in the cuts in local government expenditure and underfunding our National Health Service and chronically underfunding many schools all over the country. So it's up to us to challenge them. And so we will challenge them when they come back with whatever non-agreement, agreement, or whatever it happens to be they've reached with the EU against our 6 tests. Our 6 tests are about protecting jobs. Our 6 tests are about investment for the future. Our 6 tests are about a Labour government's ability to govern in the future for the benefit of the people that will have put us in office, those that haven't benefited from the largesse of the Tories, those that have suffered from Tory policies and Tory economic policies. And we will challenge them. And if they can't do what they're supposed to be doing, then I simply say to them, get out of the way. Let's have a general election and decide who will run this country instead. And John McDonnell will challenge the budget straight afterwards. I'll speak straight away, and then John will speak the next morning with a detailed offer of what we would do. We'd end the imbalance of public investment between the North and the South. We would understand and point out that the lowest levels of central government expenditure and the lowest levels of investment are in the East Midlands. That's why we would rebalance with a National Investment Bank that would invest in all parts of England, as well, of course, as in Scotland and Wales. We'd invest in the infrastructure that's necessary, but also through local, regional transformation funds, be prepared to invest in good quality jobs for the future and use the government buying power to enforce good working conditions. So we won't be turning a blind eye to what Sport Direct do. We want jobs that are permanent, that are unionised, that people get training at, and they're good quality employment. Look at what's happened in so many of the former mining areas. No investment, depression amongst many people, and a future that is very difficult for many of our young people. It's the Labour Party and the Labour government that will be able to offer hope and an incentive to do things in all of those areas, and I'm utterly determined we take this lot on, we force a general election, and we win it in order to improve the life of the people across this country. And there are so many things that need dealing with, but it's also about the sense of justice in our society. Dennis and I worked very closely together throughout the miners' strike. We did no end of meetings, rallies, demonstrations, marches and everything together. The horror of Orgreave, the way in which the policing was carried out in Scotland, the way in which earlier the Shrewsbury 24 had been treated, the way in which blacklisting operated in the construction industry and many other industries. We are very, very clear that the job of our new Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, will be, and it will be done, is to open up a public inquiry straight away into Orgreave. And blacklisting. That has gone on because I want to live in a truly democratic society where things are open and above board. But there's many other things we'll be doing as a government. I've just come from the meeting about fracking, and I made it very clear what our policy is on fracking. Barry Gardiner, with my absolute support and approval at the 2016 conference, made it very clear a Labour government would end fracking. And we would end fracking because, first of all, it's unnecessary. It doesn't give us the energy we need for the future anyway. Secondly, that whatever system is used, be it hydraulic fracturing or acidic development, acidic release of the gas, you end up polluting underground water supplies. Right. That pollution, you don't know where it's going to go. None of us know where all those aquifers actually run to. You get pollution there, and it's there for all time. It doesn't disappear, because there's nowhere for it to disappear to. It's underground there. So our water in the future is damaged. And then the air pollution that comes at the point where the gas is extracted at the top is very dangerous. And the fracking site that's being proposed, that is subject to the campaign at the moment, is within 500 metres of a primary school. That's dangerous for those children. It's not right for that community. And in the United States, that would not be allowed. I'm not holding up the United States as an example because they do too much fracking, but I have to say, a number of states, quite a considerable number of states across the USA, because of public campaigning, have stopped fracking and ended it in exactly the same way many people in Australia have also campaigned against fracking. And so I went there today to give them an assurance, clear statement of what Labour policy is, as I give to you. We will end fracking in the UK. There are obviously many other issues, and I don't want to go on for too long because it will try your patience, and also I've got to go somewhere else later on. I'm trying to make sure that we get round to, oh thank you, socialist water has arrived. We're making sure that two things. One is that we have selected our candidates in pretty much all of the constituencies we need to gain at the next general election now. We've done that for a reason, because we want them in place early on so that we can develop the campaigns around them, and that we're obviously doing. And I'm making sure that I get one round to every single one of these marginals all across the UK. So I've been a lot in the West Midlands, East Midlands, Scotland, Wales, South West, South Coast, and so on. Big variety of places. Things have changed, times have moved on. I'll be in Bournemouth next week campaigning for Labour candidates to win in Bournemouth. Yeah, we can do it, and above all we will. And so that campaigning is important, but it's also how we as a party relate to people and relate to communities. And so one thing that I promised when I stood for leader of the party was that we would introduce the concept of community organisers. So the party becomes more embedded in the local community campaigns. I've been at the fracking demonstration today. There are many other issues around the country, because the strength of our party does lie in that sense of community and that strength within communities. And that's why we have this very large membership. But it's also about democratising our party so the voice of the membership can be heard, and in policy making, the experts, who are the members of the party, who have all that real life experience in so many areas, can contribute to policy. It'd be very easy for us to say, well, we've got this money that Dennis has very kindly referred to, we've paid off the Co-op Bank, they're not ringing up anymore, and they're not writing to us anymore, it's fine. And we could say, well, let's employ a few experts to write policy for us. Well, we're not going to do that. We're a party with ideas. The National Health Service was born out of the mining communities. It was born out of that sense of a community that delivers for all. And that's what's going to guide our policies for the future. Our National Education Service, our investment bank, and the economic policy we will follow. So when we challenge that budget, we'll challenge it on injustice, we'll challenge it on environment, we'll challenge it on the effect on women and the discrimination that's implicit in so much of what the Tories do. But we'll also challenge it on what it's doing to people that thought they were going to be better off under universal credit. They know the reality. Even Esther McVeigh finally let it out. Average £50 a week worse off under UC compared to the old system. That's why we're saying stop now on this. Stop harming people. Stop harming communities. And they were finally forced to admit yesterday that those with disabilities have lost an average of £5,000 each. That's an awful lot of money to be taken away from a family that are often really up against it. And more than half of families with any member who's got any disability are living in poverty within our society. That is the reality of it. And so we'll challenge them on that. We put it to them yesterday, we challenged them yesterday on it, and we're going to carry on doing that. And so, we're strong. I was going to say strong and stable, but that's been a misused word, and I promise never to run through a wheat field. But it is about how we do our campaigning, and that is why we have these national campaign days. We get out there and we mobilise people, because I don't want to live in a country where we ignore those that sleep rough because they can get no home when we walk by on the other side. I don't want to live in a country where 1 million people every year have to rely on a food bank to get a chit to go to a food bank in order to get enough just to be able to put enough food on the table for children. I don't want to live in a country where teachers routinely have to dip into their own pockets to give kids enough money for a breakfast or a lunch. And they do. Teachers do that all the time, and the stress levels that they suffer from are absolutely huge. Is any of this necessary in the 6th richest country in the world? No, it's not. We know what they've been doing. We know what it's about. Our party was founded to bring about decency and justice in society, to take away the fear of not being able to pay for health care. I want to live in a society where we provide the education for all, where we're not afraid and ashamed of public investment to create good, new, sustainable jobs. We're not afraid to use government spending power to impose good working conditions rather than 0 hours contracts and lack of rights. I want to live in a country where you've got your employment rights from day one when you walk into a job, rather than having to wait and wait and wait and then find yourself dismissed just when your rights are going to kick in. So our government will be very different and will be very changing of our society. But be aware of this, and I'm sure you all are. There's been some criticisms made of us in the right-wing media over the last summer, and I understand some of the papers even say unkind things about me from time to time. Well, it doesn't bother me. Nothing keeps me awake at night anyway. I frankly don't care. What I care about is what we do as a party and how we win as a party. But when we're in government, we're going to get a lot of pressure from a lot of very, very powerful forces. We will sustain ourselves and survive in government if we maintain our radical determination to change society, and we maintain the unity and loyalty of the entire Labour movement to bring about that better, more decent society, which is what brought us all into the Labour Party in the first place. Dennis, to me, has been an inspiration ever since I first heard him speak, long before I became an MP. And together with Tony, we were great friends when Tony was alive. And I remember many train journeys, particularly during the miners' strike. One time, it was really funny actually, we got a train from Chesterfield, we were going to London, and Tony's diaries had just come out. And so Dennis decided to read from them aloud. So he stood up in the train. It really entertained the whole carriage. The whole way to London was Dennis reading and then commenting on various points throughout the diaries. And Tony's diaries were brilliant, but also quite personal, and also sometimes quite self-critical. So fair play to Tony for doing all that. But Dennis has been such an amazing comrade for so long. It's a real pleasure and a real honour for me to be able to be here with you all today, to thank all of you for what you do for the party, thank Dennis for all he does for the party, but above all, I hope to encourage you to make sure we defeat the Tories here, defeat the Tories in Ashfield, defeat the Tories in North East Derbyshire, in Sherwood, in Broxtowe, Mansfield, and all across, and we make the East Midlands a place of Labour gains in a general election to bring about a Labour government that will transform our society and preserve the soil. Thank you very much.
These days, we'll be campaigning in Shirebrook on Saturday, so I expect to see you all here. And now I know you all want to have a personal word or a photo.